Joe Satriani and Orianthi. Welcome to our first episode of Pairs, the interview series where we get together not one, but two high-profile artists. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So you guys know each other. Do you remember where you first met?
Well, we met a couple of times, I guess, at NAMM and jammed out at the House of Blues, I think the last time we jammed with our fellow friend, Steve Vai, who I've actually known since I was 14 years old. And he kind of introduced us, I guess, and we all jammed out. And that was scary for me, actually, to be on the stage with you guys. Wanted to, but it was very fun and an honor.
Yeah, well, you were great, and we were lucky to have you. Thank you for doing it for us. That was really great. A really good friend of ours. Steve introduced us. I seem to remember, maybe it was at a NAMM show or something like that. Somewhere, some little club that somebody was doing something. And he spoke so highly of you as a person and a musician. And so it's been great to see you continue I don't know, how many albums have you got out now?
I don't know. I was thinking about the other day. I think like 6 or 7. I don't know. And got another 2 or 3 I'm putting out so soon. So, doing this whole thing, it's been crazy. But I love your latest record, Elephants of Mars. Is that right? Elephants of Mars, on Mars is really good. Yeah, I was listening to it the other day. Sahara, I love all the like textures and the sounds and everything and the melodies. It's really great. As always, your playing is amazing. So very inspiring.
Speaking of album releases, Ori, you've just released a live album, Live from Hollywood. Joe, you've released several live albums in the past. Most people think you just record a concert and release it as a live album. What else is involved in putting out a live album that people might not think about?
Wow. Well, I tell you what, some of the live albums, you get really lucky where the mood is great, the venue's great, you're captured properly, everybody puts in great performances, the audience is inspired, and you do nothing but kind of mix it gently and put it out there. So we've had a couple of those happen. And then other times you do one and the digital cameras don't talk to each other properly, and you spend months trying to rectify code issues between cameras. We had that with one really good night where everything was great except for the cameras. We get to the end of I think it was called Satriani Live. I think that was the one that we did in Anaheim. And we would literally get to the very end of the live video editing, and we would be 0.6 seconds off, and no one could figure it out. We go back to the beginning, and it took months to figure out it was one camera that was putting out some strange code, and it would throw everything off. But what happened was, after you'd get to the end of the concert, which was quite long, and it was about 2.5 hours or more, all the sync would be off. And because it's instrumental, it's like you want all the sync to be perfect. We weren't making a fake video. It was a live performance and everybody's playing like crazy. So you want everything to be as accurate as possible. So there's a lot of that happens. Good things, bad things. If you get a chance to record multiple nights, which I've never been able to do, that would be like heaven, because then the anxiety level drops. You don't have to like make sure that you're absolutely at your best that one night. So I don't know, maybe Orianthi's had different experiences, but yeah.
No, it was the first live DVD we did, because Frontiers, the label, wanted one, and we threw it together really fast and didn't have much time to edit, it all. And as you're saying, having 2 nights would be perfect, because I'm perfectionist and hate most of the things I play and sing. So I'm like going, how are we going to fix this? And honestly, at the end, we're like going, okay, you know what? This is live. We're going to fix a few things, which was one was actually pretty funny because the audience found where the cameras were, the cameras and also the microphones were placed around the venue. So they decided to, in between songs, like say weird like crap into the microphones, and had to like, cut it out, like really like inappropriate shit, like just weird jokes or just things, and it was like, oh my god. And so the mixer Bill Mims, he was like going, yeah, it was great, except for like the audience, like you have some really ratty fans that just go to town. But other than that, like we had a good night. I mean, it was Michael Bearden, who's a dear friend of mine. He just literally flew in from working with Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett, so I was very honored to have him there in this venue called the Bourbon Room here in LA. Carmen Vanderberg from Bones UK, she flew in from Italy, and she was jet lagged as hell, but got up there, so I'm very grateful. Glenn Sobel, about to leave with Alice Cooper. I'm like, Glenn, my brother, come in, like literally gathering people, and we pulled it together somehow. I don't know, and it's fine. It's, you know, there are definitely things listening back to that change, but you know what? It is what it is, right? Put it out to the world and moving on to the next. So yeah, hope people enjoy it. But yeah, it was a vibe.
It's a great album. As we said, Joe, you released Elephants of Mars this year, and Ori, you have Rock Candy coming out on the 14th of October. There comes a time where you have to transition new music to a live setting. Do you both enjoy that period of arranging songs to play live, and how do you approach it? How close to the studio recordings do you like to get on stage?
Oh, I don't know. Orianthi, you want to take that?
Okay. You know, sometimes with the last record I did with Marty Fredrickson called O, we had some tracks running because there was a lot of like program stuff, like intros and whatnot. So that would run as we played it live. So keeping it pretty close to the recordings, but then like I like to solo out until people look really bored in the audience, I stop. So, you know, it's kind of that sort of thing where you kind of mix it up a bit, leave a little room for like jamming and the band to do their thing too and put their personality to it, because I use different musicians a lot of the time who's available because we're not like constantly touring, especially after like you know, the whole COVID thing. So yeah, I mean, honestly, pretty much keep it the same, but leave a lot of room for like improv and sort of going off and letting people in the band do their thing. So
yeah, I agree. There are some songs that really take off live when you give them the actual sound of the album and the actual tempo, and then you find other songs that actually, like, the definitive version was not the album version, but the one that happened, you know, 9 months into the tour when everyone has totally distorted the song, and it finally arrives at that state where, oh, that's the version that we should have recorded, we just didn't know. So I think that shines a light on the thing that artists know when they make records, but you know, the audience really doesn't think about, which is the records are made of new material when the artist is the least experienced at it. And the whole band, the whole crew, they hear demos sometimes at 11 in the morning, and by 1 they're tracking, and before lunch at 2:30 it's done. And you really don't have time to think about it. Certainly the musicians that you've hired or the engineers that are working on it, it's all brand new. It goes on the record and it's there for the rest of your life, but you don't really have any perspective on it until you go out and you play it in front of thousands of people. And then you go, oh, should have been faster, should have been slower, should have brought the bridge back. Solo was too long. In my case, the solo is always too long. You know, stuff like that. It really is interesting, that whole thing about bringing album stuff to the stage. But yeah, you got to flow with the times and with the band as well. Sometimes you get somebody in the band that's so amazing that you don't want to hold them back, and you say, you know, this song, let's expand it, and then you just go crazy right there. And that's the thing that happens.
Yeah. Well, what about while you're recording? Do you ever think, how am I ever going to reproduce this song live, or is that something you just worry about later?
Well, I don't know. I would think Orianthi, she's got two jobs. She's got to play, and everyone expects her to be amazing as she always is, but she's also got to sing. And so
remembering her, the worst. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the songs, honestly, like the ones I've been playing like live lately, there's a lot of like different parts that we've been adding, like with tracks and whatnot. There's effects as well. Like, I didn't use that many pedals. I used to like be like completely just pedaled out, like a huge pedal board, and I had a TC electronic kind of rack mount with a ton of things. Now it's just wah pedal amplifier. But definitely with some of the solos, there's like whammy pedals, it's like, like octaves, like fuzz, like all that kind of stuff. So it's like hitting the pedals, remembering all the sounds. And, some of the solos on the new Live from Hollywood record are a little different from what they sound like on the album because of the, in the studio, you've got everything there and it's kind of, it's just right. But we had to, sort of mix it a bit, so it's not like exactly the same. And some of the solos are a bit different too. So
what about the track order of an album? How important is that to you both?
Oh, I got to say, I'm crazy about that. I make, if I look over here, there's this board to my right. And when I'm making a record, I have columns for key signatures, tempos, temperament, solo lengths, effect, the overall sound of the track. And I've employed some crazy secret formulas to try to, make the ultimate sequence. I have no idea if anybody notices. All I know is that it's important to me to get the track right. If I hear the wrong key, follow some other key, it really bothers me, or tempo thing. So yeah, we go round and round. And when I'm making the album, I'll make like flashcards or little slips of paper, and I'll put them out on a table, and I'll ask the musicians, you go walking by the table, you rearrange them any way you like. And because I'd really like to feel the way that they're perceiving the album. And it's always really interesting to see which songs somebody thinks is a single or is a deep track, or they hate it. And, it's been pushed off to the right, that kind of thing. But ultimately, I make my own decisions based on key signatures, tempos, temperament.
Yeah, it's like the flow of it, if it just feels right. Exactly. Like when you hear, and that's the way I kind of do it. I sort of pick my order of things, sit with it for a while, and then I ask my friends, my trusted friends, like band members, producer, that I'm working with, of course, engineer, manager, kind of everyone around, sort of to see how they feel about it. And then make the final decision kind of after a minute. It's not like an instant thing where you go, oh, this is exactly what the track order is gonna be like. So yeah, that takes a lot of time actually for me. Like this last record, Rock Candy, took 12 days to record and write. Like we did it really fast. I was a little nervous about it because never done a record like that, but it was a challenge. And it's not the Montreux song, Sammy Hagar, by the way. It was just called Rock Candy because it sounded like rock candy. So a lot of people have asked. Love that track, by the way. But yeah, it's a bit of like rock and pop and electronic stuff. I made it with my friend he's like a film scorer, like kind of dude. He does like a lot of like big sort of film sort of soundtracks, and he's really talented. He plays like violin and all these different instruments. So we kind of really experimented and did it fast. And I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could do it. The comfortability of putting out a record and doing it in 12 days is not like, I'm a little anxious about it, but I hope people like it, So,
Right.
Yeah.
Forward to it.
Yeah. Ori, you're also in the midst of making a documentary, which I believe will come out probably next year. Joe, you had a documentary made by your son. Do you have any advice for Orianthi?
Don't listen to anything I tell you.
Okay.
I'm incredibly uncomfortable in front of the camera, and I don't, every time I see myself, I think, I don't know who that person is, why they're acting that way. And so you know, I don't have any personal advice. Every time I see other people on camera, I think, oh, that's the way normal people act, you know?
I'm the same way. I don't know. I just go, okay, that's because I consider myself to be quite eccentric. I am, like, since a child. Kind of grew up in a time warp. So I'm like, sort of the way I look at things is very like different. And yeah, I don't know. Who knows? I'm just myself. But yeah, it's a thing. It's like with shooting a documentary, like we just did this whole thing making of, and there's quite a few things coming out next year too. But you know, it's weird. It is, cameras being around for sure.
Yeah. You know, there are things that's funny about documentaries that we learned, Zizi and I, about the length and whether or not you go into the film festival route or you go straight to the marketplace. There are lots of things to decide, and that should be thought about ahead of time. When we were doing Beyond the Supernova, we thought we were just doing B-roll for a concert DVD. So the movie idea script didn't get written by Zizi until we had already filmed most of the background footage. And then he got the idea for the film. We dropped the idea for the live DVD. And so that we kind of did things slightly backwards. But if you have it all organized when you're going into it right from the beginning, you can set it up so bringing it to market or just going straight to the festivals is clear cut. And either way, you got to think about length, content, you know, is it PG-13 or, you know, all audiences, or, you know, how crazy does it get? And how will that limit where it gets streamed, which is really what it's all about right now.
Yeah, definitely. We actually shot 2 documentaries. So one is actually out now with the live DVD. So it's kind of with, you know, Life from Hollywood. And then another one's coming out like next year at some point. So yeah,
right.
But it's different. So, yeah.
You both have new signature guitars recently released. Joe, your GS2 in gold was released at NAMM. And Ori, you had the Gibson SJ200, beautiful red acoustic there. When you first received the prototype of the new signature guitar, is there part of your teen self that comes out and think, wow, they made this for me?
Well, I tell you, you know, the gold guitar, the first prototype was made in 1989. I used it in a video for a song called Big Bad Moon, where I was kind of singing. And it got rained on for 2 nights in a row. And so, you know, it looked pretty distressed, but I always thought a gold chrome would be a great idea. But it just took forever to figure it out. So a little bit of that reaction was kind of watered down because it took like 30 plus years to get it together. But it is a beautiful looking guitar, and it's a real trip with the switches and everything. So yeah, part of me kind of geeks out on it as soon as I get it. And I don't want to screw it up, but I basically, I've got to figure out how to get the first scratch on it so I can relax and treat it like I do with the rest of my guitars.
I remember when your Chrome Ibanez came out, and it was like so shiny and awesome. Like, I just remember that, and it was just so badass. And yeah, I have one in Adelaide, actually, in Australia. So yeah, and I love the tone. It's so great. And you know, it's just, I mean, honestly, it looked like nothing else when you go into a store. You know, it just really caught your attention, and it was cool. And it must have taken a while for them to do that with the paint job, because you can imagine, like, yeah, pretty intense, but awesome. Really, really awesome. Love it.
Well, I can see that beautiful acoustic behind you. That looks really beautiful.
Yeah. So this one here, this is my J200 Gibson that I messed up. I went to the factory and I literally said to them, can we put an electric guitar neck on a J200 body and make it more playable, and then make it red, and then throw crystals on it, and then put lotus flowers on it. And the fact that they actually did that, I'm so honored. It's not even believable, like, for me to have a signature Gibson at all. and it did really well. I mean, it's pretty, you know, vibrant guitar, and the playability of it's great. It feels like a electric guitar.
Nice.
The pickup as well with LR bags, so it has a lot of mid-range, so it cuts through, but a lot of like bottom end, because, you know, a lot of acoustics annoyed me because of the fact like they sound very thin when you play them, you know, like if you're doing like a cover show or just playing with a band, they sound terrible. And so that one I was like, can we make it so like if the sound goes like high, drunk, passed out, like it sounds good. You know what I mean? Like you have all the controls there yourself, and it's built-in compression, it's got extra bass, all that kind of stuff. So and there's my new PRS as well that came out as well. So I got 2 incredible instruments from amazing companies that, yeah, it's pretty wild, very wild.
Bravo.
Yeah, it's wild that they wanted to do it with me, and you know, just they're very, very vibrant, and they sound very good. Like this PRS is 24, custom 24 is quite detailed. This came out about 4 months ago, I think. Put this one out, and it's the same color as my first Jimi Hendrix t-shirt I used to wear when I was 10. And my parents hated me for, like, you know, it was so vibrant and everything, and they used to walk like way in front of me when I used to wear this t-shirt. So but this guitar turned out awesome, so I'm very, very excited, and it sounds amazing. So
are either of you working on any new products that you're able to tell us about?
Am I working on yeah, well,
wise?
I've got a new amp coming out through Orange, so yes, but I can't say too much about it. Well, I can say it's a combo, yeah, and I'm excited, and it's loud, and it has reverb, lots of it, because I like my reverb.
And Joe, anything happening?
No, I'm happy to say that I'm feeling very free at the moment. Although behind me, you can probably see all those, those are, I'm actually, you know, testing these things out for the tour. I've got them. They came with the EL34. I've got now a set with KT88s and 6L6s. I have a C83 mod on one of the other ones. And it's driving me insane, to tell you the truth, because every day I change my mind what I think sounds better. You know, the only way to tell really is to perform the whole set while plugged into each one of them to try to figure out which one sounds best with the pedals and all the guitars. And it's such a personal thing, and I've got such a weird job, you know, just playing back-to-back melodies and solos just all night long. So I need a special kind of setup. But yeah, right now it's nice not to have any kind of amp deal or pedal deal, or any other kind of deal really that keeps me from trying other things. The only thing I really love is playing the Ibanez guitar. So I'm really happy working with those guys.
Yeah. You were telling me off air, Joe, you've been doing a bit of painting recently. Can you tell me about that?
A lot of painting. It's terrible for my calluses, I got to say that, because you wind up washing your hands like every 30 minutes because they're filled with paint. And but the good side about it is that I got commissioned by Wentworth Gallery to do a lot of paintings, and they've got about 150 pieces of mine right now, and they've got 10 galleries in the US, and we do shows, you know, like you go to the gallery and people show up and you get to hang out with them and sell your paintings and tell them about them. And it's a whole new thing for me. I've been painting forever. I grew up in a house with artists, so my sisters were my first sort of art teachers. Then I married an artist, and then my son got a degree in art as well. So I'm just the late bloomer, I guess, finally getting around to canvases and painting guitars for real. So yeah, so that's when I go into it. It's sort of like I get to play only about an hour or two a day because I've got to spend most of the time in the art room making a mess, basically.
That's awesome. My sister's a painter, so she painting her whole life, and she's incredible. I'm terrible, but I love it. But you know, it's real meditation, you know, and I got into it more during 2020. I have to check out your artwork. I bet it's awesome. But I just I painted a terrible guitar, which people have seen on my Instagram. And I painted some very strange paintings, one portrait of my cat and some other things that, just weird. But it is a meditation, and I do enjoy it. I wish I was better at it, that's for sure.
You just keep doing it, It's like music. It's just, I tell people it's like a guitar solo in front of 10,000 people. You can prepare, but actually once you start, you play that first note or you put that first color, you really just have to go with what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Ori, your creative outlet is cooking. And I believe that's even extending into possibly a cooking show.
Yeah, that's another thing I'm working on. We're shooting it next week, I think, the first episode of it. So that's going to be coming out probably end of this year or next. I'm half Greek, so growing up in that sort of environment, it's all about food, music, gatherings. And I started cooking when I was like 5 years old because my Greek grandma was like, in the kitchen with me and teaching me. So all of my friends are treated very well. Like they come over to my place. It's like a banquet all the time. Like I just feel like it's my duty to feed people. It's really weird. Like, I don't know. It's like, you must eat. And so I'm just like cooking way too much stuff. But, and I started doing it for fun on Instagram, and then some people hit me up that work at the Food Network in different places. And they're like, we should do this. And it's like a musical cooking show. So having guests on, playing music, talking about their favorite food, and then cooking it, making healthier alternatives. I'm about promoting like health and all that kind of stuff. So just, yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting, entertaining anyway.
Nice.
Do you cook, Joe?
Yes, I do. Not going to have a cooking show. But yes, I do. I do enjoy cooking. I cook a lot, and but I've been around a long time, so eventually you got to figure that out. If you want to hang around for a long time, you got to get control of your food.
Yeah, Joe, you're currently surrounded by Australians in this interview, and you have Ray Thistlewhite from the band Thirsty Merc in your band now. How's that working out? Because you found Ray on the internet, didn't you?
Yes, yeah. I have yet to meet Ray in person.
Okay.
So it's a funny story. I was recording the Shapeshifting record, and I was going to bring in this other keyboard player to do what became a crazy guitar solo eventually. And as I'm sitting down trying to work out what was a failure of communication with that other artist, I started talking to Chris Chaney about some of the people that I'd been viewing on YouTube that were amazing musicians. And, the conversation circled round and round. And finally, it turned out that we were familiar with some of these same artists, mainly Lewis Cole and the band Knower. And so later that evening, as I was really like focused on finding this keyboard player, I stumbled upon a keyboard, maybe it was a international keyboardist or some sort of online magazine, and they were focusing on up and coming keyboard players and musicians. And one of them was Ray, but of course the picture of Ray was this guy with enormous head of hair and a big beard, and he was playing a guitar. And so I just, I thought, oh, that's really cool. And then I kept going. And then at the bottom of the article, they had all the YouTube clips instead of right next to where, the artist was described. So I'm going down there, and all of a sudden I see this Lewis Cole video, and I think, well, I've seen that before. I don't see this guy Ray, this really long-haired guitar player in there. And I realized that the guy with like really short hair, no beard, in the corner playing a keyboard like crazy, it's actually Ray. And so I start to go down the Thistlethwaite rabbit hole, which is really hard to say at this point in the afternoon. But and I realized that this guy is amazingly creative on guitar, on vocals, on keyboards, and I got to figure out a way to get a hold of him. anyway, turns out his manager is in LA, and that's where I'm recording at the time. So I just did one of those things where you send somebody an email and you say, I'm this person and I'm really interested in that person. How can we get together? And so, yeah, email, FaceTime, Zoom, and that's how we got the album done. And every time we sent him something, he sent something back that was just insane. So I'm really excited about having him out on tour. So only a couple more months to go before we hit the stages. So I'm very excited.
Yeah. Joe, you told me in a phone interview once a funny story about your first night in Australia with Mick Jagger at the Seawall Townhouse. I wonder if you can retell that story. Do you know the story I'm talking about, the noises?
Oh, that one. Yes. That's so funny that you remember that. Yeah, we had just checked in to the Seawall Townhouse, and it was all very exciting. I'd been on tour with Mick for about a year by that point. And and checking into these hotels was kind of routine. But as soon as I got into the room and I opened the windows, I could have sworn a woman screaming, just like blood curdling screams. And I'm thinking, and I'm looking out on the street and everyone's just walking around like nothing's happening. And I'm thinking, what is this place? Like where something like that could be happening and no one's paying any attention to it. So I finally called the front desk and I said, I think a woman is in real distress across the street, just coming right beyond those trees over there. What's going on? And so she walked outside for a second and she came back in and she educated me on the wildlife of Australia and not to be alarmed by blood curdling screams coming from birds and other wild Australian things. So I was pretty embarrassed by that. But
it was a bird?
I think it was some kind of bird that I'd never heard before, but it really is.
Yeah.
Like straight out of a horror film.
There's some weird, most animals over there can kill you. It's like brown snakes and spiders and all this stuff. So that's a good thing. I've been living here in LA for 18 years now, going on 19, which is crazy. But that's the only thing I don't miss about Australia is going hiking and seeing a brown snake or seeing some kind of spider where you just have to run and you start screaming because you're like, oh my gosh, you're gonna die or be paralyzed. It's terrible. But other than that, Australia is beautiful and I need to go back. I haven't been back there for 3 years now. It's crazy. So
yeah, and we need to see Joe down here soon too.
I'd love to come back. Always enjoyed our time in Australia.
Yeah. I should let you guys go. You've got a hell of a lot coming up. Joe, you've got the Elephants of Mars album out. You've got the G4 experience happening early next year, which will be fabulous with Peter Frampton and Eric Gales and Alex Skolnick, a whole bunch of people.
That's good to catch one of those shows. That's rad.
And Ori, you've got the Rock Candy album coming out. Live from Hollywood is already out. You've got the cooking show to look forward to, and docos next year. So much happening for such talented people. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Great to see you, Greg, and great to see you, Joe.
Wonderful to see you, Orianthi. Greg, thank you so much. It's been great. Thanks for having us on the very first show. Congratulations.
Yeah.